I entered the MS Brissie to the Bay. It's a 130k ride, and there are other options with the MS Brissie to the Bay. So it's a ride to raise money for multiple sclerosis sufferers, and it is one of the biggest rides in Queensland in terms of numbers. So there's all different rides there, 130, 150, 25 and 10. There's around 7,000 people all up. So I think in the 130 there was around 2,000 to 3,000 people.
Have a safe ride. As a reminder, this ride is on open road for all.
We ended up in the last wave. So the ride started at 6:15. And I don't think we got away until 6:45. So it was dark when we got there, and it was light by the time we even started. So being in the last wave, there was, like I said, there was probably thousands of people in front of us, which was fine. So I rode with Brissie and Lisa most of the way. So Lisa's in the hot pink. So just coming up here, Lisa called out and said there's a photographer. So I moved over just to try and get a nice picture of myself. I don't know if they actually turned out, and then had to get back on. So I rode with Brissie and Lisa for most of the way, and they were riding also with another group. So there's kind of another group that were with us for most of the ride. So I always struggle at the beginning of any event. I find I get out of breath really quickly, and I kind of build into the event. So, and this was no different. I was actually really out of breath at the beginning, and that first 50 kilometers just seemed to take so long. I just kept looking at my Garmin and just going, oh, okay, I'm running at 20 Ks, I'm running at 25 Ks, I'm running at 30. Maybe I was looking at it a little bit too much, but it just seemed to go on and just take a really long time at the beginning. So it was about 9 degrees when we started. So I had on a base layer, my jersey and a gilet and arm warmers. So I'd also taken a jacket when I rode into the start, but I didn't wear that for any of the race, just had that in my jersey pocket. So it was run on open roads. They weren't closed. Most of the roads weren't closed for this. So kind of the good thing was that there were lots of lights, and good for me because it meant that I could actually get back onto the group, because you'll see as we go through, there was just kind of this constant elastic band where I would fall off the back and then have to get back on, and getting caught at lights was actually a good way to get back on because they were all waiting. And sometimes you're waiting for quite some time. And then I would catch up and, be able to lower my heart rate a little bit and get back on and join them again. So I am a bit weaker going around corners because I tend to slow down. I'm a little bit cautious around corners. So this is the first aid station, a feed station. This was at about 25 Ks. We didn't stop here. Obviously you can see there's hundreds of people that have stopped here, but we didn't need to, none of our group needed to stop, so we just kept going. And this is out at Manly, and you can see, well, that's a pool just there, but you can see the water just on the other side. And Manly's in a bay, so it's Wynnum and Manly, so different Manly to Manly, Sydney. It's in a bay, and then on the other side of that bay is Stradbroke Island. So there's no waves that come up here, but it does get pretty windy. So it was really nice and pretty just riding along here. I've never ridden out here before, so it was the first time. There's a common ride that people do out here and go to the 3 points, but I had actually never done it, so it was nice to ride out here. As we were riding, lots of people on the side, unfortunately, fixing flats. Luckily, we didn't get any flats. So there was a few moderate hills, nothing too steep, but you just can see people kind of getting further and further away from me. And then the ride took us on this narrow path, and I kind of lost the group here. It was hard to get around. I did actually manage to get around, but there was some people that came in the opposite direction that were very vocal and not very happy about having so many riders coming the other way. So I did lose the group here. We lost the group that I was riding with, so there was still people in front. So I had 2 bottles, so they're about 800 mils, 2 bottles of Infinite on my bike, and then I had enough to refill, which I can show a little bit later. I'm doing 35 k's an hour to try and get back on. And obviously Lisa and Brissie got away from me, but they always said that they would slow down and wait for me. Sometimes they just had to slow down and I would catch up, and a couple of times they actually pulled over on the side to see where I was. Good thing is Lisa is in bright pink, so I could actually see her, and I had my bright orange casque helmet, and so she could just look back, and she said my helmet just stood out, so it was really easy to see me. So it was, we got back together quite a few times. So this is, we're just coming up to Wellington Point, and again that's us, North Stradbroke Island out there. So we're still in what's called Moreton Bay. Look at this guy on a unicycle. And I thought I was doing it tough. So going out to the points, there was some out and back section, so you can see some of the riders coming back the other way. So this is Wellington Point, not an official feed station, but there were toilets here and lots of people stopped to wee, including us. And I was quite warm by this point, and I took my arm warmers off. I still had the 3 layers. Although as soon as we started riding again, I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have taken them off, but it didn't take long to warm up again. So we're 50 k's in. Got a nice downhill and tailwind at the moment. Slowing for lights. And this is the Raby Bay bike course. So there's a triathlon that is out here. I've only ever done it once. Well, I've done the full triathlon once, and I've done a team. I've done the swim in a team. So I've ridden on this part of the roads once before, but in a race when the roads were closed. So we had to be careful of cars here, but at least there was a fairly wide shoulder. And this is another out and back section. So this is down to Cleveland Point. You can see the other riders, coming back. They've already been to the end, and there's this cute little lighthouse at Cleveland Point. So another little incline, you can see them just starting to get away. But luckily, just around this corner, the group was regrouping. So the rest of the group had stopped just around the corner. And so I was able to get back on here. We just had a quick stop here for a couple of minutes, just to wait for all of the group. So again, you can see them just kind of getting away, and this was probably the longest time where I felt like I was on my own for the longest part. The rest of the ride, there was always other people around, but this group just kind of kept going. So I slow down a fair bit around corners, a little bit cautious around corners, around roundabouts. Yeah, I'm a bit cautious there. So, people who are a bit stronger and less cautious obviously get away, and then, turning right at this roundabout. Again, just slowed a little bit. I probably brake around roundabouts, which I know you shouldn't, but I don't know, just a bit scared. A bit scared that I might, go too fast and skid out or something. But the group really started to get away here. And I was going pretty fast. They're a group riding together as a group, so they're a lot faster than a single rider riding hard. They're just getting further and further away, disappearing into the distance. The only good thing here is I could still actually see them. So, doing 28 k's an hour into a headwind. We've done about 65, and I just can't get them. And luckily, there were some lights. So Lisa and Batsy had slowed down again here, and I managed to get back onto them at the lights. Thank goodness for the lights. That's what I need, just lights. Yes, we can just coordinate the lights every now and then. So now we're heading out to Redland Bay. And the further we went, the better I was feeling. So we're about the 85 kilometre mark, and then the rest stop is coming up. So I'm going about 3 hours. I actually feel alright now. I feel better than I did probably half an hour ago. But I'm not having as much nutrition as I should. So I think we're going to stop at this rest stop, and I'll make sure I have drink some more. So as hard as I found it the first 50 Ks, I found the second half much easier. So we're just about to head up to another feed station. Then we stopped at this one for quite a bit of time. There was a pretty big queue to use the portaloos. So I had taken some infinite powder, and then I just refilled my bottles here. So there was water and other food and I guess lollies and bananas. I'm not really sure what was there, but all I knew, I just needed my infinite, so I just refilled that with the powder to put more powder into my bottles, and then refilled them with water, and I was good to go again. So in the second half, the GoPro battery was playing up, so sometimes it would turn on and sometimes it wouldn't, so I don't have too much more footage of the ride. I do have the end for some reason. Luckily it turned on just at the end, but I don't actually get the hills at the end. So the last probably 30 k's had quite a few undulations. So here's Craig. He was behind us because he had to stop. His Garmin was going off as if it was an emergency, as if he had crashed. So he had to stop and reset that. Like I was saying, the last 30 k's or so were undulating and hilly, and I quite enjoyed that. And there were some really good spots where you get up above the city and look out and see all the city buildings, all the high rise, and then beyond that, Mount Cootha. And Brissie actually said to me, oh, we just have to get through the city and then do a lap of Cootha and then we're done. And I knew that wasn't the case, but in my head, it didn't actually worry me that if I would have had to do a lap of Cootha. Like I said, I was feeling better in the second half than I was in the first half. So you can see all this traffic here. So we come up to this roundabout and there's 2 lanes of traffic and it has to merge into one, and then they're only letting the cars go every now and then they let the bikes go. So it's not normally this busy along here, but there was quite a lot of traffic and I just missed out on getting through. You can see they got through and the guy stopped me. It was funny, he was saying how much abuse he cops as a traffic controller from drivers, which actually that's not funny, but interesting. He has to have thick skin. You have to have thick skin to be a traffic controller, I think. And there you can see the city in the background and Cootha. So all up, I took 5 hours and 2 minutes, and I would do the ride again. I really enjoyed it. You know, it was hard, but it was a fun ride. I was a bit surprised that it wasn't timed, but I should have known that it wasn't timed. So that's just my own timing. You know, you go at the end to look at the results and see how you've done. Well, there's none of that. This is just a ride to raise money for multiple sclerosis. So this is one of the hills towards the end. And then the GoPro managed to turn on just before the finish line and just after. There it is. So I'll be back again next year. Give it another crack. Thanks for riding with me. So it's all done. That was it's actually really good. I enjoyed that. The hills weren't as bad as I thought they were going to be, so that was good, but I'm probably still fairly weak. Well, I'm probably the weakest in the group that I was with, so that's them just behind me. And Lisa in the pink is a powerhouse up the hill, so I just see her going ahead, but thank goodness she waited for me. Her and Brissie there waited for me at most of the, every now and then, so I could just get back on and join them. So really enjoyed it. Long ride. Very proud of how I've done, so let's see what's next on the calendar.